Well, good morning, or if you're watching on a replay, it could be afternoon or evening. We just want to welcome our listeners to the Kennrod Live. This is a platform we use to educate kids on their options. And we always like to bring on career professionals where we can dig into the insights of what a career in that particular field is like and give you an opportunity to ask questions and just have a conversation. And we're excited, really excited about having Phyllis Clerk. She is the Assistant U.S. District Attorney at Fulton County and a friend of Kelley's. And Kelley, thank you for pulling in a really, I know, going to be a great topic and an interesting conversation that we have with Phyllis. So welcome, Phyllis, to the show.
Welcome,
Well,
Phyllis. We're glad to
good
have
morning.
you.
Good morning. It's my pleasure.
Before we got on, we were just talking about how important it is to give kids insights into careers. So why don't we start off with yourself, Phyllis, like to be an attorney and what interests you in going that route and maybe what the sacrifices were like getting there.
Well, I think that my interests began early on, probably in elementary school. One of the things that I enjoyed doing as a kid was reading. And so I think that's going to be a very important trait for anyone that wants to be an attorney because it does entail a lot of reading. You read lots of cases, judges' opinions, case law, all of those things that affect your cases. So reading was a very early interest of mine, and I decided to go to Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta because I am a native Atlantan. And
Mm-hmm.
while I was there, I did one of my girlfriends was at the University of Georgia's law school. And so, of course, my interest was piqued in terms of staying in Atlanta and going to the University of Georgia's law school. So I was accepted there and several years ago, quite a few years ago, and matriculated there for about 3 years. So you have to have an undergraduate degree to become an attorney. Unlike other master programs, other professional programs, you do not have to have a specific major. Your major could be anything. My major was political science. You can
Mm-hmm.
have a business degree, you can have a math degree, you can have an engineering degree. Any type of degree will satisfy the requirement to get into law school. You can specialize, of course, in certain areas in law school: corporate law, business law, engineering law, copyright law, those kinds of things. But you do not have to have a specific undergraduate degree to apply for law school. Similar to applying to college, however, you do have to take a law school admissions test, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to score a pretty decent score to be able to get into law school. So the prerequisite for undergraduate degree is the same thing for getting a law degree, in that you have to have apply, take a standardized test, and get your score, and then apply for law school. And
Gotcha.
so, and for me, my specialty has been for the last few years has been criminal law.
Gotcha. So when you got out of Georgia, what was your first step as an attorney?
Once I graduated from law school,
Yeah, like where did you go to work and what kind of experience did you gain in your first, your first career move?
and Pete, I'm glad you asked that question because unlike some other professions, you have to have a license to practice law.
Mm-hmm.
So once you graduate from law school, you have to take the bar exam, right?
Gotcha.
And the bar exam is another test to prepare you to practice law. You have to be licensed to do so. The other component to practicing law in terms of getting your law license is a moral fitness test. And so I think that's a very important factor
Mm-hmm.
that anyone interested in law needs to understand, that your background is going to be checked. Your criminal background, financial background, your moral fitness, your standing in the community. So you have to make sure that when you are matriculating through your young adult years, particularly in the phase where we have lots of social media accounts where individuals are on social media quite a bit. you have to be very careful about what you post on social media because it can affect you in terms of your moral fitness to practice law. So that's a
Mm.
very important point that I wanted to make sure that our students or anyone listening understand that they will delve into your background. So you need to be very careful about how you carry yourself and how you represent yourself before, if you're interested in becoming an attorney. So you have to take the Georgia bar and be licensed to practice law. And given that I was a criminal prosecutor and I have been for a career prosecutor, my first job was actually prosecuting misdemeanor cases in
Okay.
Fulton.
Mhm.
And that was, I mean, it's a foray into felony cases, and now where I am in prosecuting federal cases and federal court. So my very first job was prosecuting misdemeanor cases in the Fulton Solicitor's Office. Once I left the Solicitor's Office, I went to the Fulton District Attorney's Office, and now I'm in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Fulton County.
Awesome. So what did you think you did to be successful in criminal law and moving into the role you're in? What did you have to learn along the way to keep advancing?
Good question. One of the things that I recognized that was an important character trait is perseverance, Pete.
Hmm.
You know, you have to have good judgment, I believe, in order to balance the interest of the parties that you are representing. For me, it
Yeah.
would be the government. You have to have good judgment to be able to understand that even though you have someone who may have committed a crime, you also have victims that have to be they have to be atoned for. And so the idea of balancing the interest, but perseverance and having the courage to do what's right has always been one thing that has bode me well in my profession, is having the courage to do what's right no matter what.
That's awesome. So perseverance and doing the right thing. How do you think that was shaped as you grew up? I mean, what was, not everybody kind of grasped those two important skills. So what could you say to the students that they could benefit from that could help them in that area?
Well, to be honest with you, I came from what I would consider humble beginnings.
Hmm.
My sister, my older sister, was the first person in my family to go to college. And so I wanted to model myself after my older sister. And the idea of persevering in the midst of different adversities. I came from a single parent household. My father was
Hmm.
not in my life. So it was really important for us to make my mother proud,
Hmm.
because that was her goal, was for us to graduate from college. My
Oh,
sister became an engineer. And so, of
wow.
course, I wanted to follow in her footsteps. I wasn't very good at math and science, which is why my reading and English skills stepped in. And so that part of my brain was different from hers. But
Sure.
the idea of wanting to make my mother proud, to do some things that my mother didn't have a chance to do because of her. She went to high school but didn't go to college. So the idea of persevering and wanting to make her proud shaped me quite a bit.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. And
Beautiful. So do I.
and yeah, that's those two traits there are just important lessons to learn, for a career and being successful. You certainly, perseverance is critical. I mean, nothing comes easy, that's worth obtaining. So there's going to be that process that we all have to go through.
And that's
That's
right, Pete.
awesome.
But what happens quite a bit is that you have challenges, you
Yep.
have setbacks, things that you didn't anticipate were gonna, those curveballs that are thrown in your life, and you have to keep going. You can't
Yeah.
stop. You may stumble, but you got to get back up and say, listen, I have a goal. I have some things I want to achieve in my life, and I'm going to keep going no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, I have two girls, and I talk to them about the importance of relationships. So, well, how do you feel about the building of relationships and what that meant to your career?
Oh, I think it's critical. Mentors are very important to have.
Hmm.
Um, your family is your foundation. You have to have the support of your family. They are the ones that will give you the pep talks, right? They're the
Yep.
ones that are always in your corner, no matter what. They know you better than anyone else, right? Your
Yep.
strengths and your weaknesses, right? And they prop you
Sure.
up. Your relationships are very, very, very.
Oops, we lost you.
We see her.
I know.
Can you see me now? So
Yeah,
relationships
you're
are
good.
very, very important, Pete. Your family. I think that when you're younger, you don't realize how important your family is, right? As
Yeah.
young people, you think your friends are more important, and your friends are important. Don't get me wrong, your friends are important, but they don't know you like your family does. They won't support you like your family will. And the love is definitely the foundation and the glue that keeps you together, that helps you want to persevere. Family is very important.
So currently in your position as the Assistant U.S. District Attorney, what are some of your biggest challenges that you are faced with on a daily basis?
Well, during the pandemic, we've had some of our cases have been put on hold. But one of the things that I'm finding as we're getting back into the courtroom atmosphere and prosecuting cases, that we're having to deal with a lot and face a lot of law enforcement opposition, right? Given some of the things that have been happening in our society over the last few years, that have been brought to the forefront, particularly on social media. But the important thing that I want to convey um, to our listeners is that we have to have a society that we protect our communities, right?
Yep.
And regardless of what you feel about the police, there is a system in place where you have the police, you have the judges, you have the lawyers, you have the court system that is there in place to ensure that the safety of the community is always in the forefront of our positions. And so
Sure.
having to combat some of the mentality and teaching, I think that a lot of people do not really understand the legal system, right? They only know from one perspective what the legal system is based on what they see on television, and or what they hear. But the integrity of the legal system is something that I think that once we're in court and we can educate people, even like on programs like we're having now, is to educate people about the importance of the integrity of the system, and the goal is to protect the community, the public safety. That is our goal.
Yeah, that's yeah, I totally agree. And so what do you think when it comes to how people have to have a better understanding of your role? What can you share with the students of what your philosophy is when you're, in the courtroom and doing what you do? I mean, you're putting the bad guys behind bars, but there's a certain process, and as you stated, the law and everything that's involved. What can you share with our students about that?
Well, initially, there's always an investigation into
Okay.
someone's conduct, either by, in my case, the FBI, ATF, which is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosive. We have federal agencies like ICE and or immigration, and we also
Hmm.
work with the DEA, the Enforcement Administration. And so initially, it's always an investigation, right? So when you're investigating the case, you have to have evidence. You can't just bring cases before the judge without any evidence to support your position that a crime has been committed.
I got
I
you.
will say this, that in this day and age, that a lot of our evidence does come from social media. We have lots of people who, I guess it's good for the prosecution. I would say that, who like to film their conduct. They post different things,
Hmm.
but the reality is we have to have safeguard um, our evidence with how we gather the evidence, meaning that we
Yeah.
cannot violate someone's rights to gather the evidence to prosecute them. So we have to make sure that we are, as prosecutors, are also the gatekeepers of the U.S. Constitution, and that individuals who are charged with crime are prosecuted by evidence that we've secured in a lawful manner. Once we get the evidence, we evaluate the case, and we also look at the individual's history.
Hmm.
Some people come before us who have had who've been involved with law enforcement and have other convictions. Some do not, and those things play a role in how that we represent and recommend a sentence to the court. Um, Usually, the court has other information about the individual as well, not just their criminal history, but their background, their family background. Could be some mitigating circumstances that support them not getting a maximum sentence, for example. So the court weighs all of those things, and my presentation to the court should include the history and characteristics of the individual. But the ultimate goal, though, Pete, is to deter that individual and other individuals who may want to commit similar crimes. And so the punishment should be commensurate to deterrence. That's one of the other factors
Yeah.
that I'm very interested in, hoping that the court achieves, is the deterrence factor.
Yes.
Hmm.
Are you seeing some rise in any particular crime out there in our Atlanta area that you're concerned about, or having to focus on, or take care
Quite a
of?
few, yeah, quite a few financial crimes. We have lots of financial crimes going on during the pandemic. And unfortunately, our violent crime is on the rise, which is very disheartening in our communities. Um, it may be a product of the fact that individuals know that the court systems are clogged up right about now because of the
Hmm.
pandemic, meaning that the cases aren't moving forward in a timely fashion given the backlog of cases that we have. So yes, I am very concerned about the crime that's being committed, the victims, innocent victims in our communities that are being subject to the violent crime. I think that once the backlog is taken care of, then hopefully that will also start to deter other individuals. But the pandemic has caused quite a few individuals to rise, and the escalation of crime to rise.
In Fulton County, are you back in the courtroom yet, or is that
In the federal,
coming?
so I work in the federal system, and
Okay.
we still do lots of Zoom hearings.
Hmm.
But yes, we have started back with jury trials. The court has said that we need to move forward. So in fact, I had a jury trial a week or so ago. So yes, we are moving forward. We are taking, of course, the necessary precautions, but we are moving forward, trying to get our backlog taken care of so that we can move forward with other cases.
Awesome.
I've got a question for you, Phyllis. Can you share with everyone what a typical day is like for you? You get up
Oh,
in the morning and you come to the office, or you log on to your computer. What is a typical day like for a U.S. attorney?
we have each one of us has a caseload, right? And those cases could be in different postures along the way. You may have an arrest of an individual. You may have someone, a federal agent requesting a search warrant. And so that's what I was talking about earlier, Peter, that we have to safeguard people's rights, right? So I may
Hmm.
have an agent come in and say, I want to search someone's house because the evidence supports that they have robbed a location, and we think that the firearm is here, or the proceeds from the robbery are in their home. So I have to help them with a search warrant, right? I have to get that search warrant to the judge because and it has to be um, in a position where the court understands the history about the case, why you want to search, and have to have probable cause to do that, which means I can't just walk in someone's house and take their belongings without having a reason to believe that I'm going to find evidence there. So I could be doing a search warrant. I could be doing an arrest warrant. I could be in court for an initial appearance, which means that once that person is arrested, they have to be brought before the judge. They have to have an attorney. We have to determine whether or not they have bail set, whether they are going to be out on bond or whether they're going to stay in custody, pending the outcome of their case. Typically in federal court, if you have a criminal history, you're very likely not going to get a bond.
Hmm.
The federal system is a little bit more stringent than I think the state system in that regard, because we don't have the backlog that state has. There's quite a few cases that the state has. They have lots and lots and lots of cases. So they prioritize the severity of the crime in terms of who gets the
Okay.
bond. So we could have bond hearings. We could have plea hearings where a person enters a guilty plea in court, and we can have a sentencing. So all of those things could be happening in one day. So you
Wow.
typically are in early, and you work very hard throughout the day, and then of course sometimes into the evening hours. You don't necessarily have a 9 to 5 per se with and as a prosecutor. Um, Defendants don't stop committing crimes, you know. So you are a lot of sometimes what you're doing is you're reactive to circumstances that occur in
Gotcha.
terms of prosecution.
I got you.
And can you also share,
Years
we
earlier, can you share with our students? What's that? Did you say something, Kelley? Go ahead.
well, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. I still hear some background noise, so I apologize to our listeners for that. We are working to improve that. But what I was beginning to ask Phyllis is, can you talk about the focus areas that are more prevalent right now? I know that you have background in immigration, you have background in human trafficking, some drugs, dealing with different, drugs that come into the community. Are there any particular areas that are more prevalent right now, and how are you addressing them?
I think that a lot of the violent crime is very prevalent in our county. Um, we do have lots of human trafficking going on. I think again with the pandemic, we have lots of people who are behind the scenes and they have gone online versus like being out in the public. So I do think that we have a, a way for people to kind of hide behind the camera per se. So we do have quite a few, I think, human trafficking um, crimes that are still being committed. We have lots of immigration matters that are going on, I believe, as the news reports. And mostly right now we're seeing a very high influx of fraud. Of fraud. We have quite a few people who are committing fraud, um, who are getting loans when they are alleging that they have a business that they don't have. So we have so those types of crimes we are combating and trying to get a hand and making sure that, again, like I said, our community is safe.
You, those you mentioned earlier about mentors, can you share with the students what that process is like and how they would seek a mentor, like you obviously did in your journey?
I think early on, where it becomes meaningful, particularly I think it starts in high school. I
Hmm.
mean, at elementary school, I think it's kind of early. Of course,
Hmm.
lots of kids are not necessarily focused on what they want to do necessarily in elementary school, but certainly beginning in high school, it's important to find a mentor, um, either someone who is in a field that you are interested in,
Hmm.
or a guidance counselor that can point you in that direction. Because quite a few of our guidance counselors have, antennas kind of out in the community, and they know different people because there's part of their job is to, to shape their students' desires and help them to know where their passions lie, so they can
Yep.
choose a profession, right? But it's important to meet different people in different areas. of whatever profession, teachers. I think if I had not been a prosecutor, I would have been a teacher. I enjoyed
I
teaching.
love hearing
So,
that. I have to say.
Kelley loves that.
Yeah.
so I do think that your guidance counselor would be the first kind of resource that you should
Good.
use to put you in touch with different people in the community. Your church, I think, is a good another area where you can meet different people. Organizations that people are involved in are important, but mentors help shape your mind, give you that insight, that critical insight. They have the experience that you don't have, and the insight that they have in terms of their experience and their profession, I think will help guide you. And mentors are very important because they help shape you, they shape your mind, help shape your expectations, and they also encourage you. I think that's one thing that's so important. Another character trait that I think that we should have is the trait of encouraging individuals. You know, we don't do enough of that, but I think encouraging individuals, helping them to um, be realistic about their goals, and teaching them about time management. That's another, I think, important character trait is time management, because you have to be able to manage your time and be disciplined enough to know I have to get these things done in order for me to
Oops, we lost you for a second there, Phyllis. Okay,
okay.
I think you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's our criminals trying to hack into our broadcast to prevent this message from getting out to the community. It's got to be the Russians.
We will not allow that. We will not allow that. Well, let me just chime in because, Phyllis, we're just so grateful for you for taking time to come and share your career journey with us. We know how important it is for students to be exposed, for communities to be exposed to various career fields. And hopefully, by us providing this resource to them, they're able to better navigate different careers and ultimately deciding what they would like to do themselves. So I just really want to thank you for being here and to let you know that you being here is directly in line to Kennrod's mission of providing college and career readiness for students pre-K through 12th grade. And, there have been some good things that have come out of the pandemic, and that it really forced us to discover other ways to stay connected with our community. It used to be that we were going into the schools and meeting our families off the school site, but now we've been able to have this resource. And so I do want to thank you and let you know that it is going to be available not only after our live session today, but also on YouTube. So for those of you who are watching, please share this community. Uh, they have from some process work uh, for giving true. Do we have any young students listening by chance? If you would, please send us a message. We'd love to hear questions from you.
Well, I know he's not a young student, but John Dawes is saying thank you to you, Phyllis, for standing with lawlessness and justice. So that's certainly, we do appreciate that, because it's people like you that keep our community safe, and it's people like John, who's retired, but he was a career detective in Cobb County and a guest, several months back, and it was a great show where John was sharing.
Thank you, John, for listening and watching this morning.
Yes,
one thing
and
I
that,
would tell your students is to be very careful about social media. I always warn the students about this when I'm talking to students. Be very careful about social media. I know that in this day and age, that's huge, huge, huge with young people. But I tell them, and they don't really believe this, but it's very true. Nothing ever is erased off social media. Even with Snapchat, where you think that in a few minutes it's going to be gone, that's not true. Everything is a digital imprint. And as a law enforcement person, we are able to subpoena the organization, be it Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And we're able to get information that you think has been deleted and it has not. And it does affect you, particularly in the law enforcement arena, because we're supposed to have integrity as law enforcement personnel, and you have to have a character that's pretty much, in keeping with when you want to enforce the law, then you have to also be a law-abiding citizen, right?
Sure.
And so
Absolutely.
it's important for you to know that you cannot have your reputation tarnished in such a way where people are not going to put you in a position of authority, put you in a position where you are making decisions about other people's lives, because it's a very important role that prosecutors have, or lawyers have, or law enforcement personnel, judges have. So it's important for you to maintain a sense of personal decorum, where you are doing the things that will not embarrass yourself or embarrass other people. And so social media is a giant in our community, but you have to be able to use social media in such a way that you are that you're presenting yourself in such a way that you have integrity. So that's a very important.
I like what you said, Phyllis, earlier, uh, moral fitness.
Yes.
That moral fitness, making sure that you are presenting yourself in the best way possible
Yep.
when you're using social media. And I think what you said is critical from the standpoint of that information, whether you feel like you've deleted it or not, is always there, and law enforcement get access to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. I don't know what it was, but I just remember seeing headlines. There's somebody was on either The Voice or American Idol that they had something in their past that ended up taking them off the show. So, that whole thing is just, if you have something to say something nice. I mean, that's never going to get you in trouble. But if you
Mhm.
use that platform, you're right about that digital footprint. It's out there, even though it's been deleted. And you just want to, make sure you're not putting things out there that'll come back to, stop you from either a career move or a promotion or even a job. So, yeah, be sensitive to that, because we didn't have it necessarily when we were growing up, so it wasn't an issue. But today it is the young person's platform that just gets sometimes abused, and it can hurt you. So that's good advice for our listeners. I know, Kelley, when you were sharing, I think I got the gist of what you were sharing, but you froze up a little bit. But we always want to encourage our listeners to share this. Share this with friends that they know, because the path to being a attorney and a prosecutor and in the criminal system is what Phyllis is sharing with us. So if you know somebody that has interest in that, please share it with them, because they need to understand what it takes to to be a district attorney, a U.S. district attorney. So thank you so much for that. What about when it comes to how you are working in the community? I know our law enforcement officers are in the community. Do you do anything as a prosecutor in your community? Can you share maybe a little bit about that? Or
One of the things that we do are forums like this.
okay,
Of the attorneys in our office do career days. We
okay,
go to elementary, middle school, even high schools, and we participate in community career days for the students. Um, sometimes we have show and tell, some things, where that are not sensitive that we can bring with us, so they can kind of kids, particularly the young kids, like to see visual things. Like the police officers, we have badges, right? So the kids like to see our badges. um, you know, we don't have necessarily a we have credentials. That's what we would call
Okay.
credentials. So they like to see our credentials, that kind of thing. So we are also involved in the community in that regard. We also have an outreach where we engage with inmates, reentry programs,
Mm.
right? Because there are
Mm.
some inmates who are coming out of the system who need to be integrated into the community. So we
Mhm.
also engage in reentry programs. We want to have a leverage in the community because we want the community to know that we are not just pro lock people up, because that doesn't
Yes.
always work either. So we want to integrate in the community where there's a trust factor that's built.
Mm.
So there are quite a few opportunities that we go into the community centers, we go to some of the churches, and we engage with the community in that way. Yes.
Awesome. So I
Hmm.
know when you were describing your sister and the different skills that y'all had for an attorney. What do you think are the important? I know you said reading. What skills could kids sharpen or develop that if they had a desire to go your route, do you think that they need to start focusing on?
So analytical skills,
Mm-hmm.
being able to analyze, critical thinking skills,
Mm-hmm.
um, the ability to comprehend, because you have to comprehend certain subject matters, and
Mm.
apply that understanding to a set of facts or to the law. So reading and comprehension is really critical. Um, the other thing I mentioned, time management, is very important because you will
Mm.
spend a great deal of your time, particularly in law school, reading and then applying, reading and applying. And so, you have to find a balance, because school shouldn't be your sole focus. You should have something to break up the monotony in terms of your mental health, for your mental health, that kind of thing, exercise. But time management is one of the critical aspects of being a prosecutor. Um, you don't necessarily have to have any math skills or scientific
Mm-hmm.
skills, unless, as I said, unless you are going to specialize in a particular field,
Mm-hmm.
copyright, patent law, those kinds of things, business law. So if that's your interest in terms of corporate law, then those other mathematical or scientific skills are important if that's going to be your area of expertise.
Gotcha. What
Mhm.
about your presentation skills? How did you develop them in your career?
Well, interesting that you say that, because I was very shy, so I don't know how I got into litigation, because you have to be, like, front and center. And to be honest, I still get nervous in court. So I don't think that you ever feel that you have
Yeah.
this confidence level. And I think that if you feel that you have this confidence level, then you don't have the humility that you need, to
Yeah.
really understand that, it's never really about you. It's really about doing what's right, making the presentation to the court for the court to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so you understanding your role, right? But it is, I would definitely say some debate skills are necessary.
Mm.
Public speaking skills are necessary, particularly if you want to do litigation in front of the courtroom. I think you mentioned, Kelley, earlier that we may have some students that spend a lot of time, or our listeners who spend a lot of time watching the legal shows, Law and Order, and I wasn't a big legal show watcher until recently. But I do watch in Law and Order. I like Law and Order quite a bit. But in terms of public speaking skills are very important to have, and then also debate skills. I think that those two areas, in addition to your analytical skills, would be very helpful if you want to be a litigator.
So
I'm
it's
a,
not
fa-
too
I'm,
late.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kelley.
Okay. How do you take care of yourself? I mean, I can only imagine the things that you are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. How do you take care of your mental health where you're able to step away and you know when to do that for your own good?
Good question, because a lot of what we see is the bad things that people do and the result of those bad things. And so for me, stepping away, doing something again, I like to read. So I'm gonna find a book that I can kind of get lost in. I'll listen to podcasts because I like podcasts now, listening to different things, exercising, of course. And it's hard not to take some of those things home with you, particularly when, for example, I prosecute individuals who hurt children or human traffickers. And so having teenage daughters, seeing that teenage girls and or boys are being exploited is very difficult. Um, but focusing on helping those individuals navigate their way through the criminal system and knowing that there's someone who's going to advocate on their behalf is important. Um, but also knowing that I am doing my best to get this individual who's been victimized some justice, and on the other side of that is
Mhm.
important. It's important. But for me, mainly, I do love to read still, and so that's my passion.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important to have those opportunities to break away because yeah, you are seeing a lot of the
Mhm.
unfortunate things in our community and society, and we are when you have that exposure, it does have an effect on us. So that's good that you have those avenues to go down. I'm a big fan of Candace Owens, and she was sharing how she learned. I think it was a mentor, mom and dad, or something, how to develop her debate skills. And so she said, hey, whoever shared it, I don't remember that. So she developed that skill because you got to develop the idea, and you got to, not everybody's going to agree. So you have to present your side. So debating, in high school, I always thought, hey, that's for the people that are real smart, and that's great. And I can't imagine like debating. What would that be? But I can see now how you got an idea, and you have to have a conversation with somebody, and that's definitely a skill that kids could develop that could take them a long way. So
Phil, is there anything that we have not asked you that you would like to share with us as we prepare to wind down the live streaming session today?
Other than, again, I go back to my word about perseverance to the students. I know that it's hard a lot of times to keep going, particularly when you see other people who may have gotten something that you were thought you were going to get in terms of an accolade or anything of that nature. You feel that you're being overlooked. You feel that you don't have the background, you don't have what other people have in terms of support. All of those things are important, but it doesn't mean that you can't develop the inner fortitude on your own to say, despite the setbacks and despite people not really acknowledging my achievements, I have enough confidence to know that one day that I will be that prosecutor or that lawyer or that doctor or that engineer, in terms of just keeping that seed deep in your heart and not allow anyone to take that seed that's been planted in your heart away from you.
mm,
I do believe that whether we know it or not, there are people that will come along at the right time to help water that seed and will give you the encouragement to keep going when you feel like you want to give up. So, that's always been my word is perseverance because I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles, and I'm sure lots of other people do on a day to day basis, but it doesn't mean that you can't dust yourself off, pick up your pride, and dry your tears and keep going, because I think that gives you long term, helps you to understand that you can make it, and you can then encourage someone else to make it. You know.
You see Pete and I both nodding because we know a little bit about that, right, Pete?
Absolutely. On my wall is, you can't see it, but it's over one of my shoulders. It's perseverance.
Persevere,
Yeah.
persevere, keep going. Like you said, Phyllis, dust yourself off, keep going, keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
I
No,
just
that's some great advice. Go ahead,
great,
Kelley.
great advice. Well, Pete, did you have something else? I was just going to bring
Yeah.
it to a
Yeah. I
close.
just had one more question. When it comes to your enjoyment and what you do, what really lights up you in your work as a prosecutor and and your daily activity or weekly things that you run into?
I was thinking as I was, I think Kelly asked this question earlier about, what do I do to kind of separate myself and from some of the bad things that I see. And
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say that over the years that I have learned so much from my victims. Like, there are people that I still keep in contact with, and they've given me courage. Their perspective in terms of how they've endured, touched me. I had one case where, this lady, her husband was, killed by a runaway driver on the interstate, and she taught me about forgiveness, because
Mm.
even though her husband, she said, was the love of her life, she forgave the individual who committed the offense, and she wanted to tell him that to his face, because she wanted for him to learn to forgive himself, right? And so the
Mm.
idea that I meet different people from different walks of life who have also taught me things that have stayed with me, over the years. And there are so many people out there who are so good and so wholesome, who want to do what's right, but they also teach us things, when we are so focused on a particular punishment. Their position is punishment, but also forgiveness, because most
Yeah,
people deserve another chance. And so,
I love it.
that's been one of the things. One of the lessons I've taken away from this job is that there are a lot of people who want to do what's right.
That's wonderful advice. And
It
gosh,
really
thanks for
is.
sharing that. I mean, I totally agree with you that forgiveness piece is something that if you can't, address it, it can eat away at you. So,
Uh,
yeah. And there's some horrible things that do happen to people. And but to move forward, I can see what you're sharing there about the forgiveness piece. That's powerful. So, yeah, man, this is really, really good. I mean, I think there were so many gold nuggets that I can say. And, when I think you shared perseverance and building the relationships, develop your skills, and, the idea that forgiveness is part of what you have learned from people, that sometimes you think, boy, how can somebody forgive somebody that does that? But you can. And that's good. And mentors, seeking mentors out, and finding people that can help you, because the life is not an island. It's we're in a community, and there's people and resources out there for the students to as you have interests in things like probably going the career path of your sister as an engineer was probably not in the cards, but there are different cards that you got dealt, and you took the cards and the skills that you had, and you went in a direction that would complement it. And I know your mom is extremely proud
So proud.
of
Yeah.
you and your sister for, it's not easy being a single mom raising two girls. And you know and we always hope the best for our kids, and certainly your mom has to feel really proud of where you are today. So that's awesome. Kelley, do you have anything that you'd like to share with our listeners or ask Phyllis as we
Yes, well,
wind it down?
thank you, Pete. As we close, Phyllis, again, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us and to share your career journey, because this is so important, not only to our students, but to the greater community. Those who have been listening, I think they have also been able to gather some information that may be helpful to them or to someone who they know. So thank you so much for sharing. I also want to congratulate all of our graduating seniors. We're so proud of you. There's nothing like, yeah, let's give you a hand. All of our graduating seniors, we're so proud of you, and we wish you all the best in your life and into any career that you choose. As long as you're out there doing great things, that makes us proud. So please continue to move forward and just know that we are proud of you. To our Kennrod community, we are very excited to announce that we are going to begin being in person again.
All right.
Yes, I'm excited, really, really excited. I have so missed the times at our partner schools, going on those field trips, bringing people in the school to actually see our children, for them to be able to ask questions. I absolutely cannot wait for that again. So everyone look forward to that. I'm sure we'll still have some element of Facebook live streaming, but after Pete and I have a chance to meet and talk about what that could possibly look like, we will certainly keep everyone updated. So as we close, I just want to thank everyone for just being involved this school year. It's definitely been new for all of us, but you've been able to be a big part of keeping us going during the pandemic. And I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. Pete, thank you, and Digital Growth ATL for all that you're doing to continuously support us. And I just wish everyone a great summer. You're not going to hear from us live per se on Facebook live streaming. We're going to give everyone their summer break, but we will be back in August. All right, so look forward to that. Thanks, everybody. Thank you again, Phyllis and Pete.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Phyllis. We really enjoyed having you on, and I know there's going to be a lot of students who are gaining tremendous insight and knowledge into what you shared with us today on the show. Thanks so much.
I'd love to meet you all in person one day, okay?
Hey, you can come up to the schools at some point to meet with me. And actually, let me tell you, Pete, you're welcome too. There is nothing like being in person with the kids.
Oh, I totally would love to. We'll take you up on that and can't wait.
Absolutely. Right. Take care, you guys.
Good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.